It's only Friday, got to make that point off the back, but I can't remember the last time a Red Bull was not quickest in one of the three sectors of the lap. Okay, this is Monza, very different circuit to most, a lot of straights, not many corners, but enough corners to make it dramatically interesting and to make it an enthralling day for the Tifosi, for the Ferrari fans. Carlos Sainz was right up there all day, looking really good on fuel runs in the morning session, really good on empty tanks in the afternoon, quicker than Charles Leclerc throughout the day. Charles went, well, it's incorrect. Charles was slightly quicker on the fuel runs in FP2, but they were foreshortened by Sergio Perez, of all people, going off at the Parabolica and getting stuck in the gravel trap. So not a lot to be read into the fuel runs in FP2, but we'll get on to the FP1 runs in the course of this video. But I think the overriding point is the top speed of the Ferraris, about which we spoke at length after the Dutch Grand Prix, during the Dutch Grand Prix weekend. It showed throughout the weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, particularly in the dry. Ferrari surprisingly quick, uncomfortably quick really for a circuit like that in a straight line, showing that at Monza they can really take that to the Red Bulls and the McLarens. So that's what it looks like at the moment. Really impressive top speeds. So to get an overall picture of the weekend, let's see how FP1 kicked off with light fuel runs. Everybody, different tyres, it wasn't exactly a red tyre shootout by any means. And we have that different regulation in force this weekend where they're running hard, mediums and soft in a mandatory way into qualifying or in qualifying. So a very different looking weekend in that sense. And the Pirelli compound is a softer compound than the one we'd seen at Zandvoort. So it's on the softer side. The hard compound, remember, is the one that McLaren loves so much. So another question was, at Monza, with lots of high speed, low downforce, and the softer compound, could McLaren maintain their level of competitiveness as well? We got a picture early on of where the weekend was possibly heading in the light fuel runs in FP1. Max Verstappen, lots of traffic, didn't get a free lap, but then that applied to a lot of the drivers out there as well. 22.7, 338 in, this is through the speed trap at the start finish line. This is not the speed trap into the real speed trap just before breaking into turn one. This is start finish line, but at Monza it's a long way from the exit of Parabolica. So even if you've had a relatively slow exit, you've got time to get the car up to almost to terminal velocity. So it's a relevant time as they go through that start finish line at the end of sector 3. So Max Verstappen did a lap of 22.7, 338. Look at Carlos Sainz, 22.7, the same lap time virtually. I've rounded it up to the nearest 10th. 340 kilometers an hour. So there was the first indication that Ferrari were continuing that top speed advantage, if that's the right word, that we saw at Zandvoort. It wasn't really an advantage for them there, other than that it was impossible for Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris to get past Carlos Sainz in the closing laps. I suppose it was a very good thing in that respect, as we said at the time. But Carlos Sainz continuing with that top speed, and Ferrari looking very good around the lap as well. 22.7, that was an impressive performance. So if anything came out of that light fuel run in FP1, it was, wow, look where Ferrari are. Sergio Perez backing up basically what Max was doing, as ever, slightly quicker in a straight line. Charles Leclerc confirming what we've just seen from Carlos Sainz, 3.34, but not really looking as sharp and certainly as consistent as Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, I've been saying for the last 3 or 4 races, has looked increasingly good in the way he's just been sitting in the zone in which he knows he can perform, and he's just absolutely maximizing that. And whereas Sergio Perez went off this afternoon at the Parabolica, it was, you could see them breaking into the Parabolica. I'm kind of diverting a little bit here. And you can see breaking into the Parabolica, the right-hander at the end of the lap. You can see Sergio Perez just before turning, he does that little flare to the left and then throws the steering in, wide entry. Carlos Sainz has a wide entry too into the Parabolica, a long corner as we've always said, but he doesn't have quite the same flare to the left just before the turn-in point as Sergio Perez. And again, Sergio Perez off halfway through the Parabolica, lost grip and brought the red flag out in FP2. Carlos Sainz, though, looking really consistent, 1 or 2 moments, but no more than you would normally see on a Friday. So looking really, really good. Charles Leclerc, 23.0. And then George Russell, 23.1. 332 kilometers an hour through the start-finish line. about the same as Charles Leclerc, but look where he's relative to Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. You've got to say Charles Leclerc didn't get in a good lap, or his engine was down or something, and 4 kilometers down on Fernando Alonso as well. So a worry there for Mercedes going into the long runs and going into FP2. Lando Norris was the only consolation, 3.25 in the McLaren, which of course was not particularly quick. But having said that, again, traffic, all sorts of things came into play in that. So we shouldn't read too much into that. I think the main signal from that was Ferrari seemed to be pretty quick here at Monza. So this is what happened in the fuel runs in FP1. Let's go straight to Carlos Sainz, 25.9, and look at the length of that run as well. A lot of homework being done there by Sainz's side of the garage at Ferrari compared with Charles Leclerc's. And look, second longest fuel run of the morning. Got a lot of work in. And look how consistent he was. I keep using that word consistent when describing Carlos recently and the way he's been driving. 26.5 and then 26.4, 26.4, 26.5 and then a 25.9, which was almost the quickest lap on fuel. I should say here, look at George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, 25.6, 25.8. You've got a question there, or I've got a question. I don't know whether you do, but I've got a question how much fuel they actually had in the car there, because they looked, from what we saw in FP2 in terms of their top speed looked suspiciously good there, and their lap times look suspiciously good. But at the moment, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say George Russell quickest on a fuel run in FP1, Lewis Hamilton very near him, in brackets, but how much fuel they were running. 25.9 Carlos Sainz, that for sure was a lot of fuel. And then Max Verstappen, you can see how much fuel he had, and he did his quickest lap on the last run. So pretty classic Max Verstappen run, but not massively quick. 26.2, I mean, he didn't do a 25, and everything is sort of in the mid 26s, high 26s. So let's have a look at his top speeds. This is the other significant thing from the fuel run this morning. He's doing on average 301, 300, 303, 304. Look at Carlos Sainz's speed, 314, 314, 315, 311. Now that is a significant difference, and that's showing up with fuel in the car going through the start-finish line. Sergio Perez, again, I think you got to question again how much fuel he had in the car as well. There's no way in the world that he would be that much quicker than Max Verstappen through that speed trap at the start-finish line with the same amount of fuel, unless Max has got an unbelievably slow engine in the car, which I very much doubt. And then there's Lando Norris. And again, I have to be slightly dubious about the amount of fuel he's running. I think they're all running a reasonable amount of fuel. Whether it's absolutely full to the brim is another matter, of course. But Lando also on the soft tyre. And you would imagine that would be quicker, but not necessarily in the way Monza is and the way how hard it is on the rear tyres. But good to see McLaren putting in that homework as well, doing a long run on the soft tyre. 26.3 for Lando Norris, 26.2 for Max Verstappen, Lando 3.10, Max Verstappen 3.07. So on the basis of where McLaren have been in terms of top speed all year, you'd have to say probably the McLaren is running a little bit lighter than the Red Bull at that point in FP1. Okay, so let's have a look at what happened now in FP2. And as ever, the format was light fuel first, and then we'll do the fuel runs. 2 interruptions in FP2, which foreshortened the session considerably. One, Lance Stroll virtually on his outlap, lost power, and took a while to get that Aston Martin back into the garage, so he didn't do anything for the rest of the session. And then later on, as I say, Sergio Perez dropped it at the Parabolica, and that came when everybody was doing their fuel runs. So everybody at the end after that had like 1 lap left or 2 laps on fuel before the checkered flag came out. So let's have a look at what happened here with the light fuel runs at the beginning of FP2. Carlos Sainz, again, out of the blocks, 344 top speed through the speed trap at the start-finish line. Breathtakingly quick, 21.4. Lando Norris, however, the same lap time, but look how much slower he is in a straight line, 3.35. So that's a really interesting comparison, those two squaring up. Where's Red Bull? Well, Max Verstappen didn't get in he had a lot of traffic in the middle of the lap, the Lesmos, and coming down to the Ascari chicane. So he did a 21.6, but look where he is in terms of speed, 3.36. Sergio Perez, 3.37, just a little bit quicker than McLaren, which is about where you normally expect Red Bull to be. But way down on the Carlos Sainz Ferrari. Oscar Piastri, really good in the other McLaren, 21.5. Charles Leclerc backing up that top speed that we see in the Carlos Sainz car, 345. 345, that's really impressive. Eye-wateringly impressive. And Alex Albon in the Williams also has always been quick in a straight line. Not quite as dominantly quick as they used to be. As I say, they seem to have got a little bit more downforce in that car now. But right up there in Ferrari territory, 346. Well, just ahead of Ferrari territory, 346. And doing a good job on the lap. Fernando Alonso, 338. That puts him just a little bit quicker than the Red Bulls, which is what we saw at Zandvoort, actually. And around here, not having quite as much downforce as the Red Bull doesn't seem to be a major handicap for Fernando Alonso, but 22.1 is 22.1. Max Verstappen 21.6, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself there. And then look at the two Mercedes. George Russell 22.2. Alonso haven't got massive amount of downforce territory, 3.33, 5 kilometers slower than Alonso. And Lewis Hamilton 22.8, 3.27 in a straight line. And now there was chat on the radio about Lewis saying this is ridiculous, I might as well come in and we'll just go back to the setup that we should be on, or something like that. It looks like he's running something there, whether it be ride height rate, whether it be wing, that accounts for that top speed, but it is a pathetically slow top speed for Lewis. They said there wasn't time to do the adjustment, and Lewis just had to carry on doing his fuel run. And let's have a look at the fuel run of what Lewis did. At that point, they sort of scrapped any attempt to do another run on empty fuel, and he was the first out on fuel. You can see there he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 along there, and now he's running fuel, I'd say, and I think he looks pretty good on fuel. He's doing 301, 304, 306, 308 in a straight line. And let's just go back at this morning just to refresh our memory of what he was doing. 310, 308, 313. So yeah, almost certainly he was not running full load of fuel in FP1. But good to have the time up there anyway, just for the record. And Lewis, an impressive run actually. 26.8, 26.9, 26.4, 26.6, 26.5, 25.9. Probably a bit angry at this point, I would imagine. 26.7. So, yeah, a pretty good run. George Russell, annoyingly for Lewis, 3 laps. And in those 3 laps, just slightly quicker, 25.7. And 2 toes, but, 3 toes, it looks like. 3.24, 3.29, obviously a toe. And 3.16 is a semi-toe. Looks like that's what Lewis used to do the 25.9. So, a fairly useful comparison there of what they can do with a toe. Okay, let's go back to the beginning there. Lando Norris, 26.1, 27.2, 25.9. Good run, 3.14. Again, maybe that's with a semi-toe, maybe it's not, bearing in mind that McLaren, we haven't seen McLaren, maybe it's not. So let's go back to the beginning. And Lando Norris, 25.9, 3.14. So it's about the same as Mercedes there. Lewis Hamilton, 25.9, 3.14. George Russell, 25.7, 3.16. So on a par with fuel in the car with McLaren, Mercedes, albeit Lewis slow in a straight line, but slower around the lap without fuel in the car. At the moment, that seems to be the trend. Now let's have a look at Carlos Sainz, who's really good. I mean, these are the first 3 are non-toe. The first 3 and the last are non-toe. 3.15, 3.13, 3.11, 3.18. Good top speeds, and 25.0 quickest lap. And he did a 25.9 as well, and 3 low 26s. So continuing to look really good with fuel in the car. Charles Leclerc actually slightly quicker, as George was with Lewis, 24.9. But again, look at that speed, 3.23. It looks a bit artificial, doesn't it? In that he got a toe for that one. So I'm sure. Well, having said that, Carlos did 25.0, 3.35. So you've got to say Ferrari benefiting from toes, and they were playing around together trying to get toes organised. So it looked to be a real, for the first time this year, you could say, almost a Freddie Vasseur type day, everything organised and doing all the homework they should be doing. Now let's have a look. The big question, Red Bull, where are they with fuel in the car? FP2. They've had time to digest what happened in the first session. Max Verstappen, 25.8. Yeah, pretty good lap. 3.06, 3.08. 3.11, 3.37, that's a toe. 3.17, that's half a toe. So again, slower in a straight line than Ferrari through the speed trap, that long pit straight. This will start to be a worry for Red Bull, I predict. They will probably take downforce out of the car, but look, they don't have a lot to play with because Max's quickest lap this afternoon, 25.3. It's not as if he's doing 24.7s and they've got a lot of room with which to play. So this makes it, it looks like if things continue this way, it's quite an interesting weekend facing us because Ferrari looked to be quicker in a straight line and as quick over the lap. Can I repeat that? Ferrari quicker in a straight line than Red Bull and quicker over the lap than Red Bull. But then this is Monza. Sergio Perez, before he went off, was really good, actually. That's probably why he went off. 25.4, 25.3, right up there with Max. I can beat Max. 25.4, bang, into the kitty litter in the Parabolica, and that was the end of that for Perez. And finally, Fernando Alonso, who ran completely out of sync, ran the soft tires on the Aston, 26.6, 344 Megato, 26.9, 318. So again, in McLaren territory in terms of top speed, quicker than Mercedes in terms of top speed. So how does that work in terms of the overall lap? Let's just have a look. This is selected drivers, I've got to say. It's not all of them, but selected drivers that I think will paint the picture that we're trying to see from the day's events at Monza, of what they did in the various sectors. So Carlos Sainz, we now know, unbelievably quick in a straight line. No surprise that he was quickest in Sector 1 with a 26.9. Lando Norris 27.1, Sergio Perez 27.2. I mean, it's about what you would expect given everything we've just seen in terms of top speeds and the overall lap time. Lewis Hamilton, unbelievably slow in Sector 1, 27.7, compared with Carlos Sainz, 26.9. And this is Lewis's quickest Sector 1 with light fuel in the car. This is not a heavy fuel thing. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. George Russell, 27.4. So 0.3 of a second he's giving away to George. So there is something weird about Lewis's setup at the moment, which hopefully they'll get right for tomorrow. Lewis, of course, has now re-signed with Mercedes and will be staying with the team till the back end of 2025, so that's good. He's fired up, motivated, and hoping, of course, that things are going to go a little bit better as things progress. Impressive thing about Sector 2, I think, is, well, first of all, Oscar Piastri, how good he is there. Don't forget Sector 2 involves the two Lesmos, which are still quick corners and require precision, require short corners, reward short corners, particularly the second Lesmo. Very different radii to the old Lesmos, of course, but still very demanding corners. And it also includes the second chicane. Sector 1 ends just before the braking area for the second chicane. So that's quite narrow there, quite a small ribbon of road. And for Oscar to be quickest of all through Sector 2 there, I thought was, it's just indicative of how good this guy is. I mean, he's just getting better and better all the time. 27.4, Sergio Perez 27.4, Lando Norris 27.5 through there, slightly longer corners. Carlos Sainz 27.4. That's the other significant thing, because here Ferrari super quick in Sector 1 because of that top speed, but Carlos Sainz almost matching Oscar Piastri through Sector 2, which is the second chicane and the two Lesmos. Now you can say some of that is power, but a lot of that is also braking, traction, and certainly through the Lesmos, it's balance and it's grip as well. And for Carlos to be that quick there shows that Ferrari is obviously very, very well suited to the Monza lap. Before we get too excited, though, let's have a look and see what happens in Sector 3, which is the Ascari chicane and then the Parabolica. And Fernando Alonso, full marks to Fernando Alonso, the only driver I saw all day coming out of the Ascari chicane and just keeping it absolutely on the right-hand side for as long as possible as he's accelerating towards the Parabolica before he moves across at the last possible comfortable moment to the outside for the Parabolica, because that is the course, that is the correct way to do it. That's the Rob Wilson way to do it, because if the car's accelerating, the last thing you want to be doing is putting any lateral load through the engine at that point. Terminal velocity, no problem, but when it's accelerating, you don't need lateral load. And of course, when the car is moving from the right-hand side to the left, there is lateral load going through the engine, probably costing it 100, maybe 150 revs. But so Fernando Alonso was the driver I gave 10 out of 10 to today for his driving out of there. Carlos Sainz 26.9, Lando Norris quickest in this third sector. So McLaren quickest in sectors 2 and sector 3, Ferrari quickest in sector 1. Red Bull, not quickest in any of the sectors. I mean, it's a long time since that's probably happened, I would guess. Sergio Perez, 26.9. Yeah, you'd expect that just before he went off, before he crashed. Well, it wasn't a crash, it was just a spin into the gravel trap. Oscar, 27. Max, 26.8. I mean, Max would say here, yeah, don't read anything to any of that. That's all to do with traffic. I'm much quicker than that. Indeed, he wanted to do a quicker lap on soft tyres. They said, Max, this is only Friday. Bring the car in, let's get on with the fuel run. He wasn't too happy about that. And retrospectively, that may have been a mistake, because if the Ferrari is that good around the lap, Max Verstappen is going to want to have the feel for what that quick lap feels like in the Red Bull without traffic, assuming he could have created that lap. He doesn't have that yet. Maybe he's going to get that tomorrow, a different day, of course, going into qualifying as well. But Red Bull today just getting on with the homework and not letting Max do a second lap, a traffic-free lap, or try to find a traffic-free lap. Charles Leclerc, yeah, I mean, 27.1 to Carlos Sainz, 26.9. There is something wrong there, either with Charles or with the car. Didn't seem to be too many dramas. He didn't do as many laps as Carlos Sainz, but I remember watching Charles when he was in Formula 2, when he was driving for Prema. I sort of spent the day with him, actually, and he didn't qualify very well for the F2 race at Monza. And I was chatting to him afterwards, and it was just along the lines of, I was trying to say, well, what happened, in a nice way. And he just said, I didn't drive very well. I just didn't drive very well today. I just wasn't on it. I don't know. I mean, he's so self-critical, Charles. You don't hear many drivers of that quality saying that. I'm wondering whether he's saying that right now about today. He'll be back. Alex Albon, 27.2. Yeah, continuing to go at least as quickly as the Mercedes in Sector 3. Look at that. And quicker than Fernando Alonso. I mean, a lot of that, of course, is his top speed through that run from the Lesmos down to Ascari, and from Ascari to the Parabolica. And then also, you got to say, it's the Williams obviously good through the air out of the Parabolica as well. And let's face it, probably very good in the Parabolica with traction as well. What traction? Well, traction, I think, in the Sergio Perez sense of the word. I think the Parabolica generally is a really good Sergio Perez corner. There's a moment about half the way through when Perez can do what he does really well, when the car's still kind of rotating, but he's feeling the load on the left rear. And you say, well, he spun. Yeah, but I think he spun because he lost it going in. It was all this flare business that he does before he turns in and the wide entry. It wasn't because he got his right foot down too soon. That's what happened with Perez. And so Lewis, 27.4, again, completely lost there in terms of top speed. And it reflecting in sectors 1, 2, and 3. That was Friday. Let's see what happens over the weekend. Big thank you to Jetcraft and to Pitbox.io, without whom this channel wouldn't be doing what it's doing. And I've actually also have a look, I'm going to do an end screen at the end of this video, at the interview I did with Jackie Stewart on Tuesday, going into the Italian Grand Prix. I say that because a couple of weeks ago, Jackie decided not to go to Monza. He had a little bit of a health scare. And having made that decision, he thought, I've got to go to Monza. I can't sit here and not go to Monza. So now he's going to Monza. And he's going to Monza on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of that 1973 World Championship he clinched in the Italian Grand Prix when he finished an amazing fourth, having dropped down to 20th place. So have a look at that. Jackie on good form. We spoke on Zoom, but it's come out pretty well, I think. And I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.